Welcome to Meet Your Mentor. I'm Jack Scott, your host and the Chief Operations Officer of the Mentor Project. For these next few minutes, I will be interviewing one of our world-class mentors. As you listen, you will gain insights into their individual lives as they share their personal journeys of their successes and failures. We will discuss some of the best and worst career advice they have ever received, and I will have them describe in their own words what it means to be a mentor. So without further ado, let's get to it. Hey everyone, welcome back. And today, of course, I have yet another amazing mentor to interview. Our guest today, she speaks to my soul on so many levels because of her background and my love for entrepreneurship. I am so excited that I get to chat with Mary Hagy today. She is a founder, a creative entrepreneur, a storyteller, and a civic enthusiast. The startup space is definitely her sweet spot, from creating experiences to capturing the unscripted stories. Now, Mary's current project, which I love, is called Moonmark. Moonmark captures the global audience by telling the story of 6 teams of young explorers who are actually competing to become the final 2 that will design, build, land, and race 2 autonomous vehicles on the moon. Mary is literally creating a talent pipeline for the workforce of the future, and I am so excited to get to chat with her today. Mary, how are you doing?
Thank you, Jax. I'm doing very well, and I really appreciate being asked on the show today. So, yes, that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. That was quite an introduction. Thank you.
You are an extremely impressive woman. I'm so excited to have you. I know all the listeners are ready to hear from you. So I want to know if you can just summarize who you are and a little bit about your career to the listeners so they can know just a little bit more about you.
I don't know. That's kind of hard. You just spent the first 30 seconds describing me. But probably the best way that I can describe myself is that I live a really blessed life, and I get to create and do the things in my life that are my passion and I choose to do. Anyone who looks at my background will be a little befuddled, and it's very hard to put me in a box. So I'm not an accountant. I'm not a financier. I'm not a technologist. I'm not an engineer. I'm none of those things. And it took me a while to really understand that about myself. The joy that I have and the strength that I have comes from within me and what my motivations are and my passion versus the accepted career path, so to speak. So that's so at cocktail parties and receptions and things like that. What do you do, Mary? That's never an easy question to answer.
You are a creator. You're a storyteller. I find that so fascinating because of my background being an analyst, and I sometimes feel like I'm stifled in creativity in certain areas, but you just have this way of just creating things, and I love that about you. In your field, what has been the most rewarding thing of being in your career field, especially, this project that you're working right now with Moonmark? Tell me all the things.
Oh, there is no doubt about the answer to the question of what's been most rewarding. The answer to that is people who have come around me, the people that have chosen to dream big and believe big and get past the what, and yeah, we can do this, Mary. And so those are the people that I treasure most, and those are the people that will allow our young people to race on the moon here in less than a year. So that's the undoubtedly the most rewarding experience that I have. And that's the case with Moonmark, but I've also done many projects in the past where others have what I call taking the risk of coming on board and contributing in their particular way.
Wow, racing on the moon, just to hear you say that. I mean, that just came out of your mouth, racing on the moon, and you're part of that. It's so impressive. So Mary is a mentor with the Mentor Project, and we are so excited.
I'm so thrilled to be a mentor.
We love it. We're going to be racing on the moon with you. So as a mentor in the Mentor Project, from your own words, like, what does it mean to be a mentor and working with and mentoring these children globally?
Well, that's a great question. So for me personally, and it's very, very different with people, what their motivations are and what their achievements are and what they choose to do. Right. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's always been very, very important that whatever path I go down, and Moonmark is a prime example of that, I have to know that I impact as many people as possible. Right. So the scalability of what I do has to be there. I have to, for example, understand that every young person on earth and their parents and their students or their teachers and so forth, those people, I have to believe that what we're doing will reach and influence them. So that's a very broad canvas, and not all mentors experience that. But it's very, very important to me. So the decisions that I make about how we create and land on the moon and race on the moon, that's it's a big, audacious idea for sure. The purpose of that is really to be able to hit a unifying message and experience with as many people as possible, so that the young people who actually do earn the right to race on the moon next year and then subsequent years, there are people all over the earth that will say, wait a minute, if they can do that, I can do that. And that is the connection that's really important to me. Now, that said, I have a very, very strong passion for individual mentorship, particularly for young people that are looking to find their way. They're inquisitive about themselves, or they have a desire to pursue a path, and they're not quite sure how to do it. So I know that's both ends of the spectrum, scalability and one-on-one, but both of those things are very important to me.
I agree. You need to be able to have that scalability, because I know individuals that work really well with one-on-one, but I also know mentors and teachers that work really well in larger settings. But to be able to do both of those is really a unique trait that you have. You're already a mentor, and you've been doing this for quite a while. I'm going to challenge you a little bit with this question, but could you summarize in one word what a mentor means to you? In that one word, why did you pick that specific word?
You mean about being a mentor?
Like, what is a mentor in just one single word? If you could have just one word to pick from that summarize.
It's joy.
It's joy.
Why? Yeah, there's no question about it. It's joy. Because the opportunity to work with a young person or an adult, we all need mentorship, right? And if we're lucky in the early part of our lives, we have relationships with mentors that are positive, and we understand how we can continue to grow those relationships over the course of our lives. For me, it's really, really joy. So I take great pleasure in understanding what a young person needs or an adult needs, and how we can work together to elucidate what the path is forward. And that's joyful for me. It's just, yeah, that's what it is. It's joy.
Gosh, I love that. You're such a bundle of positive energy. I love it, Mary. So joy is our word. Being a mentor, working in the field that you work in, and working with mentees, and say that you were talking with a mentee right now that was interested in moving into your career field, what advice would you give them?
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for that, because when I work with someone, it's really not about what I know. It's about what they want. So there would have to necessarily be a conversation about what the person's goals are. And we talked about before, I'm not exactly the MBA, poster person, right? So somebody thinking about coming into my career field, they have to be willing. It's essentially, you have to be willing to take risks that most people are not ready to do. And you have to be willing to make stuff up, because we do that on a daily basis. We make stuff up because it doesn't exist. So a line of questioning for the person would be really important, and may, illustrate to them that going down an entrepreneurial path, for example, which is what I do, may or may not be the right course.
That is a very good point. And I like how you answered that question. It's really understanding, and it's going back to being the mentor, the mentee, and helping guide them to understand, to not only trust their gut. That's one thing I've had to learn through my career, and a fellow entrepreneur, is trusting your gut, and then knowing what are your strengths and weaknesses. And then that mentor just talking you through that and guiding you down that path. I love that. What is one of the biggest accomplishments that you have had in your life that maybe impacted your life in obviously ended in a positive way, but was a pivotal point in your life that really you felt energy coming from that specific accomplishment that you worked so hard to achieve? As an entrepreneur, I mean, the wins it takes a lot of work sometimes to get that one little tiny win.
That's very true. And I've been in the last couple seconds thinking back over time, and I have to say that, for me personally, in order to live in this crazy world I live in, and I'm talking about not the world, but mine, I have to wake up in the morning every day and feel happy and feel motivated. And so that, to me, if you can do that, and I can't actually point to a particular event or circumstance, it's just an evolution over time and understanding what's really important to me and living my best life and waking up in the morning and saying, oh yeah, I'm doing this today. I mean, that's what it is. There are along life's journey, there are medals and there are honors and there are all of these things. And at the end of the day, what you have is a finite number of heartbeats. And how you use those heartbeats every day is really, the measure of one's success for me. And so I don't really have a pivotal point. I've just been so blessed to do so many wonderful things that I do wake up by and large every day with the sun shining and feeling, wow, today's going to be great. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Start out feeling that way, and that's a leg up.
That is perfect mindset. Yeah, very much so. Uh, so I'm gonna kind of pivot. I want to ask you a more personal question. Really dig into being an entrepreneur. We get a lot of different advice from different people that think they know what is best for the business or for you and the direction that you want to take it. Tell us what was the best advice you had ever received in your life and why?
Thank you for that question. So, when I graduated high school, I joined the Army and traveled the world. And it was an incredibly influential experience in my life, and has guided a lot of what I've done over the course of the years. So I remember being deployed at this point in time in that I'm talking about in Germany in the Black Forest. And I was with a communications unit. And so the task at hand was to dig trenches to lay cable for the communications. And I had just come back from a tour in South Korea that was a really, really great tour. I was in Seoul. I had worked in headquarters. I had incredible bosses. I had my own vehicle, which I drove the heck out of. And it was just a wonderful experience. Come back to the States and get deployed to the Black Forest, and I'm digging trenches. So my first sergeant came over to me and he said, "Private First Class, it doesn't look like you're enjoying this job." And I said, "First Sergeant, you are correct. This is not the job that I think is right for me." And he said, "Well, what would you like to do?" And I said, "You know what? Since I was a kid, I really wanted to be in journalism and broadcasting." And he said, "All right, well, when we get back to the States, we have an opportunity to connect with this television station, and let's see what happens when we get back." And that to me was the best. It's not really advice, but it was the best leadership that anyone could have given me, a kid of, 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, we get back to the States and I get called in one day and the first sergeant says to me, "You have an audition at the television station tomorrow morning." And he said, "I don't know what you're going to do with this. I don't know if you'll get the audition, but it's up to you now. It's on you. You told me what you wanted, and now you go do it." And sure enough, I did. So that was a part of mentorship and leadership that goes back to what I was saying before and has informed me for all of my adult life is you ask people questions, because if you know what they want or what path they may want to pursue, that enables you to help. Mm-hmm. So most people want to help other people. If you make it easier for them, then the results are more stellar.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I love that. So we now know what the best advice, what was the worst advice that you had received?
Oh, I get it constantly. I do. I get it constantly. And that piece of advice is, no, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. So, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a very, very thick skin for rejection. And so I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, Jax, in your own path. So think about me 2.5 years ago saying to a variety of people that we're going to put high school kids on the moon. It was more than once a day that I would hear the feedback, "No, you can't do that. No, that's not going to happen. No, it's too expensive. It takes too long. This is space. This is not, a science fair at the high school." And so in order to really achieve big things, you have to, if you want to achieve big things, if you want to open up, your own dress boutique or your own auto shop or something like that, that's your big dream, and it is as big to you as it is to anyone else. And along the way, you're going to get people telling you, well, the market's down, or you can't get dresses, or whatever it is. Okay. That's a constant. And so what you have to do, what I have to do, which has been very useful for me, is number one, you don't take that no as a personal, a personal observation of yourself or what your idea is. You take the no and you can't do that, and you say, well, why not? And then what that moment in time becomes is a market data point. Okay? It doesn't become somebody telling me I can't do this, so I'm going to feel like I can't do it. It becomes like, okay, well, you're the expert in this area. Why don't you tell me why I can't do this? And, then when you take it away, and sometimes it's not easy to do because it's frustrating. It feels like you might be hitting up against a wall again and again and again. But if you understand what the real message is behind it, it can really drive your decisions forward. So after 2.5 years of hearing, no, you can't do that, Mary, you're not an engineer, you're not a technologist, you're not a mathematician, you're none of those things. Right? What is it about you that thinks you can do this? And then, you have to take the source of that, and you have to understand that point of view and the context of it. And that then can really illuminate for you ways that you can go forward. So, my position is, I will talk to anyone that I believe could have an interest and help us go forward. And if the answer is no, or it's not possible, then I'll say, well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. Move over here to the right because I'm going forward.
I love that. Push your way through. I love that. Yeah. Know the source. That was a good point that you made, is know the source of who is saying it and why they're saying that. And go back to trusting your gut again. So we're coming up to the end, but I want to know, Mary, do you have a favorite quote? What is a favorite quote that maybe you've used or currently used or have used in the past that you could share with us?
Never give up, never surrender.
I love it.
A good quote.
Never give up. It should be. Mary, I know our listeners are going to want to reach out to you and contact you. What is the best way for them to reach you? Do you have a LinkedIn or an email that you can share with them?
Absolutely. I am on LinkedIn, so I always welcome outreach on LinkedIn. And also, we have an email at moonmark.space, and someone is monitoring that all the time. So if someone is interested in reaching out to us, we'll make sure that doesn't their message doesn't fall through the cracks.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Mary. Again, it was an absolute pleasure. You're amazing. Have an amazing day.
Thank you, Jax. I really appreciate the opportunity. You have an amazing day too. Take care.
Thank you to all our listeners and sponsors who have made this podcast possible. You can check out all our content by going to our website at mentorproject.org. We'd love for you to contact us to get more involved. See you next week when we talk with another one of our amazing mentors.